Morning YouTube. It's about 10:30 here in Switzerland. Playing some Chopin here. And it's time for my last Wilke review. And this time it's Surbrug's Crystal Palace. Did you know that a lot of famous people have smoked Wilke tobacco? Walter Cronkite, General MacArthur, Lord Halifax, John Steinbeck, and President Herbert Hoover. And it's no surprise to me because it's all very good. Now, just a few words before I start to talk about the tobacco. Surbrug, John R. Surberg, who started this company, this started to fascinate me because that name sounds like Surbrug, which is Swiss, means to the bridge or by the bridge. And I happened to find on a website about renovating pipes that they were talking about Wilke pipes, and Wilke actually sold pipes that he bought in. He didn't actually make pipes himself, but a little piece of history came that he was a Swiss immigrant. Somewhere around the age of 22, John R. Wilke was born the 11th of January 1827, and there's a census, the 1850 census in America, which basically shows he's in Ohio and he's married to a Mary Crawford. Fourth line from the bottom you can see Surbrug, age 22, innkeeper. So I couldn't help myself. I started to research on ancestry.com, and myheritage.com had much more about Swiss ancestors. So he stayed for a little while in that Akron area of Ohio, and for a while the Cleveland area, where, by the way, he's buried today, because I happened to stumble across his grave site. In the 1850 census, but then he moved to New York and started to become a tobacconist in the 1880 census. That's all in there. 9 lines down you can see Surbrug John R. Tobacconist, 29. Long story short, the Surberg company was founded in 1856. That all fits. Between 1850 and 1856 he must have moved to New York. And for about 44 years it was its own successful company, with brands like the Golden Scepter, and Arcadia. And they're very well known for that, and you can buy still tins with this brand on it. But they decided to sell out their company in two parts. The cigarettes went to the Duke Tobacco Company, and the tobacco part, pipe tobacco part, went to Wilke. That's where the change happened. And Wilke became quite a big company that way. John told me that they bought maybe 14 different businesses in building up their own. Fascinating. Anyway, Crystal Palace, which I'm smoking now. Has Black Cavendish in it, Burley, Latakia, Perique and Virginia. There's a little bit more Black Cavendish in this one than in 10 Downing Street. So the nose did come a bit dry, this one, so I also hydrated this overnight with a couple of hydration stones. I use the ones which are made out of those, like, they look like a leaf and they're made out of basically flower pot pottery, but they're very good at absorbing and releasing moisture at the right rate. And a larger jar like this I would put even 2 in if it's very dry, which it was really on the dry side. So the first bowl I had wasn't so successful because it was just going too fast. But now it's giving off a nice light sweetness, and there's a sort of kiss of fruit around the edge there. That must be the Perique. And smokiness a bit in the nose. It's a kind of yeah, it's a nice ribbon cut, I would say. It's quite a nice one. Nobody does it like Dunhill, but it's pretty good. No topping, of course. So I'm back to my brass, rather gold-looking Zippo armour with the gas insert. On a cold morning like this, you keep this in your pocket, otherwise the gas pressure goes down, doesn't work very well. And guest star tamper is what I think is Sir Francis Drake. Another one of these antique brass ones. This is not a modern remake, but the real thing. Probably 100 years old. In the smoke aroma, it's more smoky, so the Latakia is, I would expect to be forward, and in the taste it is smoky, woody, earthy, you know. If you like Latakia, you should like this one. Despite the amount of black leaf in there, it's not that sweet, but the sweetness is there, but very gentle. A little bit of spiciness which tingles your tongue. Now the moisture is just right. I think I've got it now. It's you should feel a slight coolness when you touch it, that you know moisture is in there, but the tobacco leaves flow around, don't clump or anything like that, and you know, it doesn't feel greasy or really wet. It shouldn't do, but you can feel there's moisture in there with your fingertips. So, but I notice it's actually interesting how fast tobaccos will dry out once you leave them open on a where the air is dry as it is here now at the moment. So I'm gonna close my jar back up and put it in the shade, because I just about got it right, the moisture level now. So I'd say this is kind of balkan-y, this one. Mild medium nick. It's the second bowl this morning, and I did notice yesterday that it could get bitey, but again I think it was the harshness was coming from the dryness, so I don't think it'll bite unless it's pushed overly. It's got some Virginia in there, of course, and reminds me of Sobrani a bit. Not the same, but you know, in that direction. So this one, for me, is more like an end of day smoke, you know, early evening. You can certainly have it before dinner. Again, very good. Actually got 4.0 in tobacco reviews, although I noticed some of the reviews were repeated from Emeritus. I think was in there several times, the same one, but there were several others, and they all rated this very high. And I think if you like something which is not overly sweet but latakia forward, with a sort of Balkan-y character. No Orientals in this though. Of course. Forgive me, I forgot you, my dear. This is Savinelli Impero, and I loved this one because of the collar. You know, I like green stems, and I like this malachite looking collar. It's probably acrylic, but just lovely. 9mm. The second bowl was probably even more right, so I probably got it a tad overhydrated in the jar, and if you just leave it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes out, it sort of gets from 90% to 100% perfect. John R. Surbrugger, or Surbrug, went to Ohio, probably knew people there, and they said, look, come over here, it's a good life, you can start something. And he certainly had an eye for opportunity, getting into tobacco business in New York City, and was very successful at it. Interesting that he, with his wife, buried in a cemetery near Cleveland. So still there were some family roots back there where he came over from Switzerland. Anyway, here's the little I found, and one could of course keep researching. These tools, by the way, you know, you can use them for free to do quick searches, but there's a certain point where they say, okay, if you want to see this document or do that search, you have to subscribe and pay, and you know, they cost, I don't know, I think this one's about $140 a year. myheritage.com. Well, I hope you found the whole series of Wilke tobaccos interesting, and that little bit of history there. I will rate Crystal Palace, I would give it a 3.5. Very, very good. I think everyone's guessed my favourite that I would think to reorder is Churchill. Can't help myself. Which I thought was just superb at 3.8. But all of them, again, and that's the joy of these specialist tobacconists, you know, real quality and skills are behind them. So do have a look, and have a look at the other videos. about some of their other blends that I haven't covered because they have many. And why not try a few, you know, take an ounce or something of several and see if there's one you really like. Well, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you soon about another Tobacconist blend. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.